Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Today we mark up two bills that contain the Republican response to gasoline prices. Chairman Whitfield told us all we need to know about these bills at the subcommittee markup. He said, quote, "There is nothing in our legislation that would in and of itself reduce gasoline prices," end quote. Well, we won't find any credible experts who would disagree with this assessment. Every expert at our hearings on gas prices, including the Republicans' own witnesses, told us that gasoline prices are driven by world oil prices. World oil prices have spiked with rising global demand, tensions in the Middle East, and tight supplies. Nothing in these bills will affect world oil prices. Republicans have two responses to high gasoline prices. First, they propose drilling for more oil. Yet every economist and oil market expert tells us that this will have no meaningful impact on world oil prices. And the best example of this is just to look north to Canada. Canadians drill plenty of oil. They are energy independent. They even export oil to us. But their gasoline prices go up and down in sync with ours because both are driven by world oil prices. The experts at the CBO, Congressional Budget Office, agree. A recent report on energy security says that policies to reduce oil consumption, such as fuel efficiency requirements, would be, quote, more effective at reducing the vulnerability of consumers to disruptions than policies designed to increase the domestic production of oil, end quote. Republicans also say they can lower gasoline prices by blocking environmental regulations that protect Americans from dangerous air pollution. No one should be fooled by this argument. Under Republican leadership, this body has become the most anti-environment Congress in history. Since January 2011, the House Republicans have voted more than 200 times to undermine the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, and other environmental laws. The premise of this legislation before us today is that high gas prices are caused by EPA regulations that haven't even been proposed. Well, that's a complete fantasy. That would be for me to say that the reason the gasoline prices have gone down in recent days is because of the Democratic alternative proposal, which has not yet been introduced. I think that would be laughable. Americans want clean air and less fuel-thirsty cars. They don't want this committee to use high gasoline prices as an excuse for blocking regulations to reduce toxic emissions from oil refineries. They don't want us to block clean fuel regulations that auto companies need to make cleaner, more efficient vehicles. But that's exactly what this legislation would do. Even worse, one of the bills before us contains the latter amendment, a proposal that would cut the heart out of the Clean Air Act. It would overturn a unanimous Supreme Court decision from 2001 and repeal a 40-year-old law that says the goal of the Clean Air Act is to achieve air quality that is safe for Americans to breathe. While we can't control crude oil prices on the world market, we can follow CBO's advice and act to insulate ourselves from crude oil price fluctuations. And that's what exactly the President is trying to do. The best way to save money at the pump is to drive right by it. The Obama administration has issued strong new rules so that every year new vehicles will go even further between fill-ups. This puts money back in the consumers' pockets, and I think as energy efficiency since 1980 reduced the cost per mile driven by over 25%. This has been the big boost to the U.S., and we ought to continue along that path. Unlike increasing efficiency, producing more oil here won't protect consumers from gasoline prices. Oil production in the U.S. is the highest it's been in 8 years. The Obama administration is not shutting down drilling. Instead of supporting the President's initiatives to help consumers, the Republican-controlled House has done everything possible to frustrate them. This House has passed partisan legislation to prevent the administration from cutting tailpipe emissions. Their budget would decimate the funding for clean energy. Today's bills aren't really about lowering gasoline prices. They just use high gasoline prices as yet another rationale for advancing a profoundly anti-environmental agenda. Thank you, Mr.